right now, please let me know in the comments so that I can decide whether or not to go ahead with this. And um, in this session, as I told you earlier, as we are discussing, we are going to talk about right from dictation questions. We'll talk about everything important about right from dictation, including some tips and tricks that you may not have heard before. And we'll also practice a few questions. After that, I will start answering your questions. Now, to get started, let me know in the comments about yourself, where you are from, and how much score you are looking for. That will help me to understand how I should channelize my information and how I should present the information to what depth I should go while explaining these ideas. All right. So, talking about right from dictation, this is definitely the most important question in your test. The reason for that is this first reason is sorry, if the first sorry, the first reason is this question is important for both your listening and writing. It carries points for both listening and writing. And the second reason is this question can sometimes carry up to 40 points towards your total score, making it the most important question in the test. Now, no matter you're looking for 65 or 79, you cannot ignore this question. And if you make any kind of mistakes in this question, or let's say if you even miss a sentence or a question in the test, it becomes impossible to get 79 and very difficult to get 65. That's why we have to learn everything about this question and be perfect in this question if we are looking for 65 or 79. So let's talk about everything important about right from dictation. Now, regarding the question type itself, this question is very similar to repeat sentence. Now, if you're just getting started with PT and you have no idea what repeat sentence is, this is a question which is asked in speaking section where you hear a sentence and you have to say it, you have to repeat it after the speaker. And in right from dictation, rather than saying it, you write it on your computer screen. And while writing this sentence, you have to make sure that you write exactly what you hear. And for what you write, you get points based on the number of words that match, which means if the sentence has 10 words and you write all the 10 words, then you get 10 out of 10. If you write 9 words, you get 9 out of 10. If you write 5 words, you get 5 out of 10. So the most important point is try to write as many words as possible. That is the most important strategy. The more you write, the more you get. Now comes the question, but what if my short-term memory is not that good and I can't remember everything? That's all right. Whatever you remember, write. And whatever you think you heard, write them as well. So if you heard a sentence which says, I am from Nepal, and if you write, I am Nepal, then still you will get 3 points. I am Nepal. And if you write I am from Nepal, you'll get 4 out of 4. But let's say you write I am from Nepal and Kathmandu, then you will get 4 out of 4. Now you might be wondering, the actual sentence is, let's say I'm from Nepal. This is the actual sentence the speaker said. And if you write I am from Nepal and additional words, let's say and Kathmandu, what happens in your test is you are not penalized for any additional words. So it doesn't matter whether you wrote N Kathmandu or not. You will get points for these 4 words, which are exactly as it was in the original sentence. So you get points for whatever you match with the original sentence. So don't worry if you can't remember everything as it is, or if you feel confused about whether or not to write words. It's better to write more than write less, because you cannot be given points for what you did not write, but you cannot be penalized for any additional words which were not in the original sentence. What that means is at any time you feel confused about any word, write it. Write it. There is nothing wrong with that strategy. You will not be losing any points. In fact, you might be getting points, especially if your guess is correct. Now, in the third point, I have mentioned here that write the sentence in the same order as much as possible. But regarding order, what you have to remember is order is important in repeat sentence. In repeat sentence, you don't get points if you repeat the sentence, but the order is incorrect. But in write from dictation, order itself is not important. The only reason I'm asking you to write in the same order is it's easier to remember the sentence if we can remember the order, because at many times because of the position of the missing word, that means the word that you cannot remember, you may be able to guess what word could have been there depending on how you write the sentence. So anyway, to summarize whatever I have mentioned here, in write from dictation you can write additional words without any penalty. So at any point you are confused, write whatever is confusing you. Now, what could be the tips to write the complete sentence, get the full score? There are different strategies that different students follow. Whatever works for you is the best strategy for you. As an example, some students tell me that when they close their eyes, they can remember the sentence more accurately. I don't know what is the logic behind it, but if it works for them, then it's good for them. Similarly, if you are a student who can remember better, if you start writing after the sentence is complete, then you should follow that strategy. But let's say you are that kind of person who remembers better when you start writing with the speaker, then you should do that. In my case, for example, I start typing immediately after the speaker starts speaking because it works for me. But some of my students say that when they try to do that, they get confused. So they should not do that. Okay, there is nothing absolutely right or absolutely wrong here. What matters is what is helpful for you. So you have to explore it and find out yourself whether you should start writing with the speaker or after the speaker. Okay, and you also need to remember that you lose points for every mistakes you make. Let me give you one example here. You must hand in your assignment by next Friday. Look, now let's learn some strategies which can help us to get better score in the test, even if we can't remember the full sentence. First, let's say I'm confused whether it was must hand in or hand on, then I can write hand in and then I can also write on, in, on. What happens is I will not be penalized for this wrong word. Let's say I'm confused whether it was assignment or assignments, then I can write assignment, I can write assignments as well. Because Pearson says that if you make mistake in the form of the word will not give you points. Rather than guessing and writing assignments and being wrong, it is better you write both if you are not confident. So the strategy is any word, if it is confusing, write all the possible forms of the word. But remember, there must be at least one word which is incorrect spelling and incorrect grammatical form. What that also means is after finishing your sentence, don't click next to go to the next question immediately. Rather, check the spelling and grammatical forms of all the words and make sure that all the words have been correctly spelled. As an example, if let's say I have written both the forms of this word because I learned this trick, but the problem is I wrote assignment like this. Now this trick does not work anymore. Why? Because the spelling is wrong. When the spelling is wrong, it doesn't matter whether you write one form of the word or both forms of the word will not get points. The first criteria is the word should be at least in the correct form. After that, you can try different forms of the same word. Now, I have a question from one of your friends here who is asking me, can we write extra words if we are not concerned about spelling SED sound? So I think you are trying to ask the same question. Yes, if you're not confident, you can write both forms or all forms of the words that you heard. Okay. Another important thing is punctuation marks. Now, many students do not pay attention to this and don't use any punctuation mark, but it's important that you also use punctuation marks in the right places. Now, regarding punctuation marks, there is one that you will always use, that is full stop. So make sure that every sentence ends in a full stop, because if your sentence does not have a full stop, then grammatically you may lose points for that particular part. Another important thing that you should be paying attention to is capitalization. Now, one rule of capitalization is the first word of a sentence should be in capital. So at least when you are writing the sentence, start it with the capital. But you may need to write other words in capital depending on which kind of words you are trying to write. So if you are writing name of a place, a person, or name of a month, and in such situations, you should write those words in capital. So learn the rules of capitalization for write from dictation. Learn which words should always be written in capital form, because if your word is in small form, that means not in capital, then you lose points. So as an example, if my sentence was I'll see you in Melbourne, and if I write Melbourne like this, then although spelling is correct, grammar is correct, I'll not get point because of this M, because it's in small form, it's not in capital form, so I'll not get point. Okay, that's one thing to keep in mind. Now I have a question from one of your friends here who is asking me, is there any negative marking for double words? There is no negative marking in write from dictation. So no matter what you do, you are not getting negative points. You are either getting the points or you are not getting the points, but you are not getting negative points. Okay, so there is no penalty for additional words. That is the reason why I'm giving you this strategy, that if you are not sure about spelling of a word or form of a word, write all the possible forms, all the possible spellings of the word. The correct one will be picked and will be evaluated. So that's a very important strategy to remember for your test. Now let's go back to our discussion here. And if you have questions, please keep writing. I'll answer all of those questions one by one. Now, the next important thing is how should you practice? Now, remember, these are tips. Tips only help you to enhance your score, but you still need to learn the basic skills. That means, what are the basic skills required to answer right from dictation question accurately and get full points? Of course, you should learn about the sentence structure in English, because if you don't know about the sentence structure, perhaps it will be difficult for you to remember the sentence. Remember one thing: if I tell you something in your language, you will find it easier to remember that sentence compared to when I say it in a language that you are not comfortable with, or that you do not use regularly. The reason for that is, in our language we are familiar with different kinds of sentence structures. Not just that, we also know different phrases that we use in our languages. Because of that, when someone says something, we don't actually listen to every word they say. We pay attention to what they are trying to say. That means the meaning of the sentence. And because we remember the phrases in our languages quite easily, even if we remember one word, we can stretch that to the full sentence. So we need to have the same level of expertise in English as well if we want to do better in write from dictation. And the most important strategy, that's why, is to be familiar with the common phrases. Make sure that you know all the common phrases asked in your test. Now, how can you get that list, or how can you get those common phrases asked in your exam? Because if you start learning the phrases right now, it perhaps will not be possible for you to go through every one of them, because there are simply too many of them. But if you think about what is asked in the exam, then Pearson tends to ask about just a limited number of phrases in their test. And fortunately, we have compiled the list for you, and you can use this list for completely free. If you go to our website, from there you can download the prediction file. In the prediction file, I have highlighted the common phrases in write from dictation section. Write down those phrases in your notebook, memorize them, and then start practicing. That way, it will be easier for you to remember the sentence. Word forms. What that means is singular, plural, past, present, and so on. If possible, try to learn the rules behind this as well. Although we have a trick which allows us to use more than one form of the same word, still it's a good idea that we have this skill as well. So that if at any time, let's say Pearson changes its evaluation system, and then its system becomes able to detect such kind of tricks in the exam, we'll still be able to get the points we are looking for if we have the skill. People with the skills never need to fear anything or any changes. Spelling. I told you that if you're not sure about the spelling, you can try different versions. But what if you don't know the spelling at all? Then even if you try different versions, most likely you'll not be able to spell the word. So the next thing you have to remember, you have to practice, is learn the spelling of commonly asked words in dictation. Then only you'll be able to do dictation without any problem. Even if you remember the sentence, but if you spell it wrong, then you'll not get points. And If you ask me based on my experience, what is the most common reason for people to lose points in right from dictation? That is spelling. This is the most common reason. I've seen that many students actually remember the sentence without any problem, but they misspell the word, because of which they don't get the points. So that is the reason why many students tell me that I did not have any problem with right from dictation. The sentences were quite short and I was able to write the complete sentence, but still I did not get a score in listening and writing. What could be the reason? One possible explanation is poor spelling. That's why you need to make sure that you know how to spell common words. Now, let's take a moment to answer some of your questions here. Starting with the question from Sandhya. Sandhya is asking me, if I'm confused with the first word, suppose animal or animals, a second word should be capital or not? No. Because in your sentence, only the first word is supposed to be in capital form, you should not write the second word in capital unless that word has to be in capital form because of the grammatical rules. If that word does not have to be in capital form, you do not need to make it capital simply because you are starting with that your sentence with that word. Always remember, in your sentence, only the first word of the sentence will be in capital form in the database. So when the computer compares your answer with the answer in the database, it will give you marks only if the first word is capital, but the second word should be in the small form because that will be in a small form in the database as well. So I hope that answers your question. Now let me take another question here, and the question is, I'm preparing myself by on for PT exam and I want to sit for my real exam in March. I took only one mock test which was free and I got 52 overall, but my desired score is 7. So the question here is, now what I have to do most and when I will focus more, where I will focus more. So as I told you in many other videos as well, you have to focus on the 4 important questions of PT, which are repeat sentence, read aloud, reading and writing, fill in the blanks, and write from dictation. And that's why we are talking about write from dictation, because if you can't do well in write from dictation, you can't get your score no matter it's 65 or 79. And in order to do better in write from dictation, you should be able to spell the commonly used words. You must be familiar with the phrases commonly used in write from dictation question. And then you should practice your short term memory a little bit. How can you improve your memory? Is there any trick for that? Let's talk about that for a moment. What are the methods that we can use to improve our short term memory? In order to do this, I'm going to show you a question here. I want you to write the answer to this question either in the comments or in your notebook, whichever you like. Let's see how many of the sentence you can remember. Then I will tell you how you can enhance your short-term memory by following certain tricks that people have been following for the last hundreds and hundreds of years. So let's listen to this sentence now. I think there is some issue with the audio here. Okay, that's all right. We'll practice from the website then. I'm going to our website and there we'll practice the actual exam question. Let's see how much of the sentence from that question you can remember. So let's do set number 6. Sales figures last year were better than expected. Write down this sentence on your notebook or in the comments. Okay, let's check the answer now. The answer is sales figures last year were better than expected. So let's take a moment and try to analyze this sentence. How can anyone remember this sentence more effectively? What is the best strategy to remember similar sentences in the future? Remember, most of the English sentences have at least one thing, that is, verb, which usually is in the middle of the sentence. The verb usually is preceded by a subject and has an object or predicate at the end. Let's not make it too complicated to understand. Usually, English sentences can be broken into three phrases. The phrase which tells you who, the phrase which tells you what happened, and the phrase which usually tells you where or when or why. Or how, and so on. So, whenever you listen to any sentence, try to break that sentence into phrases, into groups of meaningful words. And it's easier to remember the groups compared to remembering each and every word in the sentence. In our case, the actual sentence we heard was sales figure last year were better than expected. Now, let's implement all the strategies and tips and tricks we discussed earlier. I told you that you must break sentences into meaningful chunks, meaningful phrases. What does that mean? In the sentence we heard, the meaningful part, first meaningful part was this: sales figures last year. And verb is were. And better than expected is the third phrase. Now, when I told you, try to make yourself familiar with the common phrases, this is what I meant. Better than expected is a very commonly used phrase in English. For anyone who knows this phrase, they don't have to remember each word in the phrase and the order of these words. They just remember the phrase itself, better than expected. Sales figures. This is a collocation, sales figures, a very commonly used combination of words. So rather than trying to remember the full sentence word by word, try to break the sentence into phrases. Mostly you will have three phrases in each sentence you hear in the exam. The first part will tell you about who or the subject, the middle part will tell you about what happened, and the last part will tell you about the information I have written on the screen: where, when, why, how, or by whom, which is an object. If you make a habit of doing this, the short term memory will start changing. As an example, let's look at this. Okay, this sentence: you submit assignments next Friday latest. In this one, I broke the whole sentence into three parts, as you can see here. Now, close your eyes and try to repeat this sentence. But remember, you have three phrases. Let's see if you can do that or not. If you try it a couple of times, you will start saying that your short term memory is getting better. And the reason for that is, if you try to remember the whole sentence, what you're trying to do is you are trying to remember 6 different words. But if you focus on phrases, you are only trying to remember 3 phrases. Now, being a doctor, what I know is human short term memory usually is not better than remembering 3 to 5 words. Most people cannot remember more than 3 words. That is why in memory test, in short term memory test, in clinical situation, we give 3 objects, 3 items to people, 3 unrelated objects or items to people, and ask them to remember or recall it later. The reason is that's the optimal number of items people can remember. So obviously, if the human limit is 3 and if you try to remember 6, it becomes difficult. But even Pearson or people who make questions in Pearson's group, Pearson's company, they know that we cannot remember more than 3. That's why if you listen to their questions, you'll find out that most of their questions have only 3 phrases. Let's look at a few more actual exam questions to make more sense of what I just said. Uh, Ignore that question because I'm going to play another one.
Start of the class.
Let me repeat that.
Tutor should set a clear goal at the start of the class.
Try to write that sentence. Remember, there are still only 3 phrases in this sentence. Focus on what was the subject, who, and what they should do, and the object part or the last part of the sentence. Let's check our answer. Tutors. Who? Tutors. What should they do? Should set a clear goal. When? At the start of the class. So who? Tutors. What they should do? Should set a clear goal. When? At the start of the class. Now, close your eyes and try to remember this sentence in 3 phrases. Tutors should set a clear goal at the start of the class. So whenever you are practicing, try to practice in this way. Try to see 3 phrases inside every sentence. Your ability to remember the sentence gets better. Not just that, you start becoming more familiar with the phrases commonly used in English. Now, let's go back to the question some of your friends are asking here. And I have a question here. I heard word start with capital should be capital and as same as last word should be with full stop. That's correct. The first word of the sentence should start with the capital letter and the last word should be followed by a full stop. But if you can't remember the first sentence because of that you're starting with the second word, you can't remember the first word and you are starting with the second word, in that case don't make that word capital because that word will not be in capital form in the database and you will be losing points because of the grammatical error. I think he is also trying to share one example with us. Example sentence, last word done. What happens if I don't put full stop done and I write more words and put full stop? Okay, so I think what you are trying to ask here is because the last word is done, if I don't put full stop after done and write something else and then put full stop, what happens? Nothing. You will not be losing any points because, as I said, this system is only comparing the words you have written with the words in the actual sentence. And they are also saying that the word order is not even important. That means if the word order is not important, then even if I write the last word at the beginning of the sentence, first word at the end of the sentence, I will still be getting full points, which means they're only looking at how many of the words and characters you have used in your sentence match with the actual sentence. And based on that, they are giving you the point. To make it easier for you to understand, let me show you what I'm trying to say here. Let's say this is the sentence. Now, theoretically speaking, according to Pearson, if I write this sentence like this, Friday, submit. This is small s, by the way. It may look like capital. Submit. You. This is in capital. This Y is in capital. This S is small. Okay. Let me just delete this. I think it will only be confusing for you otherwise. So as I was saying, let's say that I write like this: Friday, you submit latest next assignments. Now you can see none of these words are in the right place. But if you look at their spelling, correct. If you look at the capitalization, correct again. So what Pearson says is we'll match the words you have written on your sentence with the words in the original sentence and give you points. When they match Friday, they will find Friday is correct, you correct, submit correct, latest correct, next correct, assignments correct, full stop is there at the end, And the first word here, as you can see, whichever words are supposed to be in capital form, they're in capital form here as well, in our answer as well, which means theoretically we'll get the full points. Although none of us is going to write like this, I know, but theoretically we'll get points. What it also means is, as long as you have all the components of the original sentence in your answer, you will not be losing any points. Now, I have another question here. Anshu is asking, I'm confused that if we write two words like university and universities, so can we get marks for correct word? Yes, that's exactly what I said. Because when they will compare your answer with the actual answer in the database, they will find that, let's say universities was the correct word, they will find universities in the database as well. And because of that, you will get the points. So that is actually the trick here. So there is a little bit of skill here, which means you have to be familiar with the words so that you can remember them and spell them correctly. You have to be familiar with the phrases so that you can remember the complete sentence, or your short-term memory gets better. But at the same time, if you are not confident about the spelling of the word or grammatical form of the word, you can write both the forms or all the forms which you can remember, which you can write at that time. And you will only be marked for the correct one, and the incorrect ones will be ignored, because that's how they have structured, they have designed the algorithm, and we are taking advantage of that point. Now, Chef is asking us another question here. Am I still getting max for done or not? Because not full stop in exactly where a sentence says. I have already answered this question. As I told you, they are not actually comparing the position of the words. They are comparing the words with the words in the actual sentence. So the position itself is not important. And after that, Money YT channel is asking us a question. Recent given test in dream mock test. I don't know what that dream mock test is. I wrote same as you told, but I didn't got any marks in all three sentences. Only 1/9, though I made all correct. Now I don't know what mock test you are talking about, and if it's not the actual mock test provided by Pearson, then you cannot rely on the assessment algorithm of the others, because they don't use the same algorithm. They don't have access to that algorithm. We also provide mock tests to students, but our tutors know about the scoring criteria of Pearson, and they make sure that the computer evaluates your answers in the same way. Some of the artificial intelligence, or so-called artificial intelligence, used by some of the mock test providers are actually not as good as Pearson's proprietary system. That's why you cannot rely on them. You need a little bit of human intervention if it is not from Pearson, because the algorithm is proprietary. It's a private algorithm of Pearson, which they have not shared with anyone. So no one knows how that algorithm works, how that analysis system works. And only humans can go inside and check and say, okay, this is not as Pearson said, so you will be getting points or you will not be getting points. And that's why I can't comment on this, because I don't know which mock test system you are talking about here. Sales figures, I think this is the answer to the question we just practiced. Sales figures last year were better than expected. Very good. This is correct sentence. Then Ansu has okay, so the question is, as I said, I think you are confusing yourself, Anshu. What I said is, if they find the correct word, they don't look at the incorrect words. That is the reason why we can use more than one form of the same word, because they have already found the correct word and that word is incorrect from, they will give you the points. But let's say the correct word is, let's say, animals. Let's say the correct word is animals, and you wrote animals in short form. That means your word is not correct. You will not get points. The correct word animals should have a capital, but you have written in small, means you'll not get points. But if you write animals and animals, one with capital, one with a small, only the correct one will be selected, only the correct one will be validated, and you'll get points for that. Then I have another question from one of your friends. Again, should I take Pearson's mock test or other mock test before attempting real exam? Now, it depends on what you are trying to achieve. If you're just trying to see how much score you would get in the real test, you can try Pearson's mock test. It will give you a rough idea of where you stand right now and how much score you will probably get in the real test. But if you also are trying to get some feedback, some strategies based on your performance, individualized strategies, then it's better you go to those kind of platforms where tutors look at your answer, not just AI. Because what I personally believe is if you use any kind of AI solution, first, it's not as accurate as the one used by Pearson. And the second thing is, AI is more like the diagnosis. It only tells you where you went wrong, but does not tell you the treatment. So you only know what is wrong, you don't know what is the solution. If you want the solution as well, it's better you practice, you do the mock test on a platform where your assessment is done by the tutors and feedback is given by the tutors. Or if you don't want that, you just want to find out how much score you will perhaps get in the real exam, just go to Pearson's official mock test and do that mock test. That is more accurate than any other mock test platforms out there, including ours. It is better than ours, of course, because Pearson knows how to assess you because they have access to the algorithm, the software they will be using in the actual test. So it's better you do it on Pearson's, not on anyone else's, if you just want to get the score. Um, then this is actually an interesting and important question that Anshu is asking. When I'm trying to do mock test, in starting, I'm always very nervous and I always mess up with the 2-3 read aloud. Also, I'm not good in pronunciation. So, can you please suggest something to improve? Very interesting question, and there is a very effective solution to this question as well. Let me tell you what is that solution. You know that before your test starts, you get around 10 minutes to prepare yourself. In most of the cases, when you try to spend this whole 10 minutes to prepare yourself, the invigilator may come to you and may ask you to start the exam, but you are under no obligation to start your test immediately. You can tell them that you are preparing, you are checking the microphone, and you are making sure everything is correct. Now, why should you be using the full 10 minutes or at least full 5 minutes given for your preparation? Especially those of you who feel nervous in the exam, using these 5 minutes to do the preparation, to do a little bit of practice of speaking will help you to adjust to the stressful environment of the exam. And then later on, when you will start read aloud, it will be easier for you because you will have warmed up by that time. So, if you think you get nervous in the test, then please try to use as much time as possible from the initial 10 minutes given for the preparation so that you can adapt to that environment and feel more comfortable. Okay? Now, Chef still has the same question. If I miss the full stop, what happens? If you miss the full stop, you don't get the point for that full stop. If I put two capital, still they give marks. I don't know what that two capital actually means here. If that's so, what's the point that they asked to put full stop in capital? Actually, I didn't get your question here. Two capital means where? If possible, try to write the example of what you're trying to say so that I can understand your question first, and then I'll try to answer that. Anshu is asking me, how much is your scored mock test? We, at the moment, do not sell only the mock test. We have the whole plan because the problem is if I just ask you to do the test and tell you the score, then I will not be able to teach you. And that's same as telling you the diagnosis but not treating you, as I told you earlier. If I find your problem, I should be telling you the solution as well. It's not enough to say that, okay, you are weak in speaking. Maybe you already know that. Maybe that's not the reason why you are doing the mock test. When someone tells you you are weak in speaking, you also want to find out then what can you do about that. And if you are weak in speaking, is it the whole speaking section? Is it just one question type of speaking? Or is it this sub skill of speaking, like fluency is not good, pronunciation is not good, content is not organized or not good or not enough. So you need that kind of information. And that's why right now I'm not in favor of just asking students to do the mock test because we'll not be able to justify. And the other question is, what happens if I miss capital and also full stop? Still, I'll get marks for correct words? Definitely. You get marks for the words that are correct, but you are not penalized for not writing something. So, out of, let's say, 10 words, if I can write 8 words correctly, I'll get points for that. But I will not be getting -2 for making 2 mistakes or not writing 2 words. So, don't worry if you can't remember the full sentence. That's fine. You can write as many words as you can remember in correct forms. When you are confused with the form of the word, write all the forms you want to write so that one of them, whichever is correct, will be picked by the algorithm. Does the screen show the time during the listening and reading module? So if you are asking about the actual test, yes, it does. It will show you the bulk time. That means the total time you have for that section, the total time for reading, and the total number of questions. So if you spend too much time on one question, that means you will not have enough time left for the remaining questions. And we have another question again. What should I do to improve reading and writing blanks? As it is so tedious task for me because I'm not used to it. Okay, why don't we do another session on reading and writing fill in the blanks? If enough of you tell me that we should be doing reading and writing fill in the blanks in the next session, then I will do it and I'll explain everything in detail, because this is an important but a difficult question, which means I may not be able to cover everything in just 5 to 10 minutes. So if you, all of you, want that, let me know in the comments whether you are watching it on Facebook or watching it on YouTube. Write in the comments and let me know. If enough number of you tell me that you want me to do this, I will do it. By the way, I'm doing write from dictation because some of your friends requested that I do write from dictation in today's class. That's why we are doing it. All right, then. Okay, let's do a few more questions of write from dictation now. A few more important things related to write from dictation. Okay, as I said, the gist of everything we discussed today is you should try to practice listening in blocks of ideas, chunks. Make sure that you can at least remember the most important word in that block. If you are kind of person who has to write the notes first before writing the full sentence, then write those keywords first. If you ask me how do I do it, I write the full sentence. Why? Because I've done it so many times that I don't feel it difficult to remember the sentence. And not that my short-term memory is better than yours. In fact, my memory is so bad sometimes I forget what I'm wearing, and I start searching for my glasses when I'm still wearing them. So my short-term memory is not better than yours. It's just that in English, in language, I remember the phrases more easily because I'm more familiar with them. And of course, check your spelling, grammar, and logical construct of the sentence. If you feel that the sentence is illogical, is not making sense, that means maybe you missed something, maybe you lost something there. I have a question here from Simran, and she's asking me, what should I do to improve reading and writing blanks as it is so... No, this is a question from Hasnain. What template is best for essay writing or summarize a spoken text? Now, the template itself is not, important, because, if you are planning to go from place A to place B, which vehicle you use, that means whether you travel by plane, travel by bus, travel by train, is not important, because all of them can take you to the place B from place A. But the comfort, speed will be different. Right? So let's say that if I'm going to my neighbor's house, of course, I don't want to travel by plane because that is not practical. But if I'm going to, let's say, Sydney from Melbourne, then most likely I'll go by air travel because that's the fastest. But let's say that I want to enjoy my road trip, then I'll go by my car because that's how I can enjoy it. So that means the method is not important, the outcome is important, and all templates can help you to get your outcome provided they are good templates. It's just like, as long as the car is in good condition, it doesn't matter which car you are driving, you will reach from place A to place B. So templates are just like that. So which one should you use? The one that you feel comfortable with, the one which is well written and easily written for you. So find the one that you like and use it. Not all the templates out there are accurately written or are written keeping in mind the evaluation criteria. So you need to make sure that you are using the one that is standard, that takes care of the evaluation criteria, scoring criteria. Just use the one which is a standard. Otherwise, it's as good as not using anything at all. And Anshu is saying, please do live session, especially for reading. Of course, we'll do it. As I said, if I get enough number of requests from all of you, then I'll do a next session on reading where we'll be discussing maybe fill in the blanks reading and writing question. Then Learn English, which I think is his pen name, is saying, so I have been practicing for almost 6 months for PT exam by on, and I'm following you and Varun. Both of you are very effective for them who hoping to take PT. I took one mock test. So I'm not sure who Barun is, but if you are saying he's good, he must be good. And you like my video means, yeah, I'm happy that you like it. Yeah, keep watching the tutorial videos on YouTube, but be careful about one thing. First thing is YouTube has a lot of distraction, so make sure that you don't end up watching other things than watching the tutorial videos. Second is sometimes the information is conflicting. I might be saying one thing that the other guy is saying in a different way, or perhaps let's say that I said today, for example, that even if you write additional words you'll not lose points in dictation, and the other person might say that if you write additional word you'll get negative points, and you'll feel confused. Now, what I think is important is first you do your research and find a person you can follow. And then after that, try to see what kind of services that person provides. Other than making YouTube videos, because almost everyone who is making YouTube tutorials are also providing classes and services outside YouTube where they provide you with additional support, and you have to find out what kind of additional support you can get outside YouTube. What will be the benefit of paying for someone's service? In our case, for example, in addition to the practice questions which you have seen on the website, we also offer live classes. You can join live classes every 5 days in a week. That means on the weekdays you can practice past questions, you can do mock tests, you can do mock mini test, you can watch recorded videos where we provide in-depth explanation of all the topics and all the skills required to answer questions in that topic. So if you think that's something you're looking for, of course, you can go to our website right now, romanpt.com, sign up for the free class first and see whether this is something you're looking for or not. If you think this is not what you're looking for, it's fine. You can look for another one. But if you think this is something you want, then you can upgrade your plan and go for the paid plan. Rubina is saying, please, can you do live session for reading? Of course I can, because I think many of you want me to do a live session and reading. So, okay, next week we'll be doing reading live session on fill in the blanks reading and writing. But before I do that session, I want you to do at least one thing. I want you to come prepared. And for that, what you are going to do is, let me show you what I want you to do. If you do this before our next session, I think it will be easier for me to explain, and it will be easier for you to understand as well. So let me show you what I meant. If you go to our website, romanpd.com right now, and if you go to this free material section here, click on free books and download this first ebook. This is completely free. You'll have to provide your details here, and you can download this first ebook for completely free. Fill in the blanks reading and writing. Here you have 200 most repeated questions of fill in the blanks reading and writing. Being familiar with the past question is in fact a very important and effective strategy for two reasons. First, it helps you to prepare at the level of difficulty required for the exam, and the second thing is questions repeat. So if you remember the answer, even if you don't remember why that is the correct answer, you can answer the question correctly and get the point. So download this file right now and prepare all the questions given there. Then scroll down and download this one, 500 words for PT, because it contains all the important vocabularies you need to know for your test. If you come to the next session after preparing from these two resources, it will be easier for you to understand, and it will be easier for me to explain as well. So make sure you have downloaded these things before our next class. In our next class, definitely we'll be talking about reading and writing. Fill in the blanks using the phrases and the questions, past exam questions. So, how did you feel about today's session? Do not forget to share your views in the comments. You can send us personal messages as well through our live chat or through our Facebook page. And if you think these sessions are useful for you, are helping you to prepare for PT, then like the video if you are watching it on Facebook or on YouTube, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more tutorial videos. In addition to these live classes, I also make tutorial videos on different topics. In fact, there are so many videos I have already made about reading section of PT that you can watch right now. If you want to watch more videos than we have on YouTube, then you can go to our PT preparation website, sign up for our free plan, and then start watching videos. And at any time you feel like I want even more, I'm not stopping here. I want to watch more videos. I want to get ready for my exam. You can upgrade your plan at any time. Okay, guys, I think this was a fruitful session. And despite the initial technical difficulty, we have been able to run the class today. And I'm thankful to all of you who waited for that long for me to restart the class. I hope you have been preparing well, and all the best for your upcoming exam. Stay safe, and I'll see you next week.